good morning, good evening, good afternoon. So it's interesting about time. What do you think about time? You got enough time? What are you doing with your time? Sharing your time. And what have you gotten out of this COVID thing? I've had many career threads. I was a young man, kind of was blessed because I was brought up by a great woman. My parents weren't so bad. And I was the youngest and overlooked. There was not, chaos was going on up here and I was down here doing my own thing. And when I was an infant, first thing I ever did was crawl up to an electric socket and stick a metal knife into the socket. And I was getting a nice little charge. I was going into my fun pit, and I was an infant, so I was what was known as a floating ground. And I had done this a number of times, and it didn't seem to kill me, and no one seemed to notice. And one day, I was like talking to the electricity, and sparks were coming out of my mouth. And or maybe as I spoke, my speaking was sparks coming out of my mouth. And I was an infant, so I wasn't saying really anything anyone understood. But I was communicating with the electricity, and realized he was telling me how much current is everything. Pretty much everything that everyone thinks is real is just an illusion. And so, one of these times when I was having a conversation with the prana, that's that electric life force that animates us all. I was my sister, Sunray. Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. I'm at work. Okay. I love you. Keep up the good work. Everything doing good, son? Job fun. What are you doing these days? You finished school yet? What's up? Anyway, so there I was talking to electricity, and my sister went and ratted me out. I'll be bloody boom boom. I'll be bloody boom boom. And my mother came in and saw me hooked up to the electric socket. And I was just an infant, like I was less than a year old. Let's see. Oh, doing CAD work. Okay. So my mom came over and grabbed me. And she's a big woman, and she dragged her feet across that wool floor, and she got one hell of a wallop. She flew me, she flew herself across the living room and smashed into a coffee table and broke her arm. Smashed the coffee table into bits. So from that point on, they turned the crib upside down on me, and I couldn't get out. And that was about the time my grandma took me away. And, never kind of left me alone, pretty much. It was just me and her against the world. And, or with the world. I don't know how it was. But anyway, she gave me a great sense of being in the moment. Everything we did, we were in the moment. So, So that's my question to you. Are you in the moment, and what are you doing with that moment? When you are consciously intent, when you have intent about what you're doing, um, that means you're in the flow. You're in the moment. And everything I try and do is to be in the moment. And that's why, being around you guys, I am in the moment. Right now, there's nobody there, but I'm here, so I'm in the moment. Now, we are pretty much the world ended in 2012. And that was the Piscean age, right? And we had been experiencing Piscean age for the last 3,000 years, give or take. And now, the inertia of that, we're still in that. So that's why we have all these wars and issues. Because everyone is getting so disconnected because they're not in the moment, like I am right now. And that is many people are. And if you want to talk to me about this, experience the vortex, yes. So that's where we're in that vortex, right? But until all our relations, that's all of us, right? So if anyone thinks that there's any real reality difference between a black man, a white man, a yellow man, the orange man, or any other man, female, we're all human beings. That's our species, right? And I'm an African American that's melanin challenged. So, and when people go, "Oh, Black Lives Matter," all lives matter. Well, that is a essence of propaganda because with propaganda, you have to start out with the truth. And yes, duh, all lives matter. But when you are saying that all lives matter, and therefore this one doesn't mean more than this one, or this one means more, no, not living in the moment. Yes, they need to see with more than their eyes. Well, in actuality, our five senses only register 0.0000059% of the universe. That's all we see. That's all we see. Within our five senses, that's all we're getting. Now we have what I call the six and above. We have all these other senses. I mean, there's a chunk of our brain that we seemingly don't use. That's because we're not using the six and above. And people always go, "Oh, you're so psychic." No, I'm aware. I'm awake. Not woke, but awake. Every spoonful of this I take, I feel everything about it. I feel all the way back to the guys picking the vegetables, all the way to the guys making it in the factory, and then packaging, and then sending it to this place, who then takes it out of the package and heats it up and puts it in the urn, and I get it. So I taste everything about this. And this is pretty good. On a case of 1 to 10, it's about a 7, right? Macarba, yes. These are these mathematical shapes, right? I did, and back in the day, when I was at Cornell, researching paranormal psychology, had quite a big thing. And I was being hired not by the school, but by an entity called SEAL Corporation out of California. And we were trying to invent, and this is 1968, we were trying to create super soldiers, right? And I was, and so they were, this is paranormal. So they were all doctors and PhDs. When I was the only guy, I was like in the Theosophical Society. I was the U.S. Psychotronic Society. I started an NGO in the United Nations called Alternative Technologies. And so I was kind of hiding from my trap board in plain sight. So I just I have a lot of friends at Cornell. So I was just hanging out there. And I, kind of cajoled my way into the secure library, the reserved library that you can't really go in unless, you have a reason to go in there. And I impressed the lady who was the head librarian, and she gave me a carrel and showed me where all the interesting books were. And I started, I had my carrel where I had all my papers and stuff. And then, I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of a real library where it had these big, long tables with lights on them, right? And what is, they don't line people up on the table. No, a guy like me who says, okay, I'm reading this book and it says, look at X, Y, Z in this other book. So I put that book down and then look at X, Y, Z and X, Y, Z and F and G. And then that whole table is full of books and I'm going from here to there to here to here. And that's called the scholarly way. The scholastic way is to just read a textbook, right? You was in the book. Scholarly is to read about 40 other people said about X, Y, or Z subject matter, and then make up your own mind. That's the scholarly. So I was doing that, researching the parent. Well, I was researching my own thing, which was all over the place. It was, had to deal with shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropology, alchemist. And that's what I am. And I got more degrees than a thermometer. And they're all basically useless. Because they all want me to be one thing, not all of those things. But those guys who were trying to make super soldiers. So I had all these books on this big table, and I'm at my carrel, and I hear rustling and things. And I turn around, and I see this unbelievably gorgeous woman leaning over, and she got a really short skirt to mid-thigh. This is 1968. And it's really loose, and she got nothing else. She's had this little flimsy dress, and she's leaning over, and she's well endowed, and big V-neck, and she's like leaning over like this, reading the books that I am, and I'm looking, and I can look right down that thing, and she got no underpants on, no brassiere, no nothing. I'm just like, And she looks up and goes, "You're reading these books?" I said, "Yep." She goes, "What about?" And I said, "Yeah." And we start talking about all these things. So what are you studying? And I said, shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic, alchemy. She goes, "Wow." She goes, "I study the same thing, but I'm here getting my PhD in psychology. And I was brought here to work with these people, and I'm not supposed to say anything, but you're exactly what we need." I said, "Oh, really?" And she goes, "Yes." And I said, "Well, that sounds cool. Why don't we go to lunch?" And she goes, "Yeah, why don't we go to lunch?" So we go over to where the teacher's dining room is, and she has a little ID, and I just walk in with her. And we have a very nice lunch, and we pack. I start packing things in my pockets, and she goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "We're going to get hungry later. Can you do that?" I said, "Well, I'm doing it." So she giggled, and she has no place to place it. Handbag, no nothing, and she's not even wearing underwear. But I have these big pockets in this coat I have. I always have big pockets in my coats, and or lots of them. And so I stack up on stuff, and we go out. And she goes, "Well, we're going to need a place to put that food. I have a little apartment just on campus over here they gave me." I said, "Well, let's go." Go there. I put all the stuff in her fridge. She's got a cat, and the cat comes up to me, jumps up on the table, and kind of starts rubbing my arm because I had the bag, taking the food out, putting it on the table, and the cat starts with the cat. She goes, "Wow, that's pretty amazing." I said, "What? My cat hates everyone, even me. She seemed to like you more." I said, "Well, is that a good thing?" She goes, "Oh, yes. She's a good judge of character and also how sexy you are. I said, really? She goes, let's see how sexy you are. And she goes, let's go take a shower. I love it when a woman, all of my greatest initial dalliances has always started in the shower. And so she goes in there and we stay in there for about 5 hours. And after we're both very clean, we come back out and she goes, we got just enough time to get over. I'm supposed to be at this meeting at 4 and it's like 3:45. Yes. And so we walk over to where, the SEAL Corporation has got its headquarters at Duke University. And so it walks in there and she says, you stay here for a second. So he goes over to her boss and goes, tells him my pedigree, comes over and says, do you know so-and-so? Do you know so-and-so? Oh, yeah. Do you know so-and-so? Mm-hmm. Well, what book were you reading on that table? I said what they were. But, okay. So, she says you're a technologist of the ether. And that's what I told her. Technologist of the ether. I said, yeah. And he goes, what does that mean? I said, well, there's certain technologies that help doing this kind of research. He goes, what are those? And I said, for one, a sensory deprivation tank. He goes, wow, we want one of those. Can't find anyone to make them. I said, I make them. Not only do I make them, here, talk to, here's this guy's phone number at the United Nations. Go talk to him. Well, my buddy up. And he says, oh yeah, Al's amazing. We have a laboratory off-site where we do amazing things. And he has been able to isolate every frequency, not only light and sound and temperature and weightlessness and electromagnetics and every other thing on the spectrum. So back a ways, Uncle Sunray asked us about Makabar. So what I would do is I would have coils without the speaker cones attached to the bottom of the sensory deprivation tank. And the sensory deprivation tank is like a big swimming pool with a roof over it, door, and you close the door, bingo, no light, no sound. Temperature is 98.6. And I had a Faraday cage around that. No electromagnets could get in. And I had a field damper and an electromagnetic field dampener from that speaker, around that speaker. And the only thing that could get through were the not audible, but the wavelengths, the frequencies, right? And so here's a good experiment for you guys. Go get a speaker, get an audio generator and an amplifier, and then put a little bit, cover the dome of the cone of a speaker up with sand, really good sand, very very, not like talcum powder, but not clumpy, but very individual sand. And you put that much in there. Then you hit different frequencies on the audio generator, boop, beep, whatever. And what you will see is every 27 points on the frequency dial, you will get, you turn on, hit the amplifier, and the speaker will jiggle that frequency, and it'll be like a vibration. But every 27 or so, it will be a formation, an image of a mathematical hologram, right? And the Makabar is one of them. And it's a very special frequency that affects the central nervous system. And you have 9 other nervous systems. Like if you ever studied cranial sacral, adjustments, there are 9 different, it's not just your little wiring of your central nervous system. Your blood is a sensory system, your skin, there are a whole bunch of other ones. And they also have different pneumatic systems. your blood system isn't the only pressurized system, right? So go look that up. Cranial sacral, right? And everything comes together back here. That's why they call it cranial sacral, because you're going to adjust all those things from one point right back here. So um, I built them one of these cabinets. And Duke it's a very big research place, so they have a number of shops where you can make anything. I said, okay, here's what, and here's the deal. So I'm part of your team. I don't, I have a sense of what you guys are. Since you're a corporation and you're working on a weapon system, you're really high, you're above DARPA. You're like part of the Comer system. And he was like, whoa. So I said, so where'd you come from? Did you come from, I said, where you are in California, you must have been part of JPL. And he went, whoa. So anyway, kept doing that to him. And again, I was only 18. And so I'm saying stuff. He's like 40-something years old, and he's been at this a long time. And, hey, John, good to see you, buddy. I sent you a bunch of messages, and I tried to call, and I hope you got everything. So anyway, so he's, I said, so I'll build you one of these things. I'll build you as many of these things you want, and I will have all kinds of bells and whistles on them, but they're $5. I want you to pay me in Benjamins $5,000 a piece, right? And you're going to get all the materials, and the guys in the shop are going to build it. I'll just be say, do this, do that, and you'll have these things relatively quickly. And then I'll help you kind of, terminate them. And what's termination is when you lock an apparatus in to its best. I mean, all the little wires get terminated, brought onto their terminals, right? Not like killing it, but locking it in. So, and again, that's another technical term. Most people would think termination. What's that mean? You get fired, you get shot, you're dead. No, termination means you're connected. And you got to realize that words. That's why I'm really a wordsmith and kind of really serious about it. Which when I hear people say stuff like, someone was calling someone crazy, he's stupid. Well, I said, no. I shut them right up right there. And whenever I get in someone's face, I don't do it amongst a group of people to embarrass them, which I could, because when people are being stupid, they're embarrassing themselves. I don't have to do it. And when people are doing stuff, I don't have to worry about someone's mean or cruel or violent to me. Any of those things, it's going to come back on them. I mean, immediately, right away. So it's like I don't have to get upset or jump up and down or anything, because someone throws me out of their house, I'll go on an adventure. They'll be all alone, and that's when the boogeyman comes, and all you can do is feel anxious. You should never feel anxious. Anxiety is a manufactured emotion. It's not a natural. Love is the only real emotion. So stick with that one. Forget anger and fear and anxiety, because they are made up in your head. And they only get there because A, you let them in, and B, there's a artificial source bringing it to you, and it's not the devil, as close as it is social media, So anyway, that was a great time there at Duke University in 1968. Because I had this girl. I was 18. She was like 20, somewhere 26, 27. She was getting her PhD, and she already had her undergrad. She already had her master's. She kind of had her PhD, but she was working for guys like this, and the stuff that she was working on, that she was writing her PhD, they took and couldn't talk about it. I mean, they gave her a nice chunk of change, but so she was like dancing in that thing of, okay, so I don't have my PhD, but I do have a lot of money. I have this nice car, I have this, and she really thought I was the bee's knees, So 18, I'm in good shape. I had been a lacrosse player in high school. I ran a lot. I was in good shape. And I had amazing education, you know. You know, the two prep schools I went in, I went to, Joseph Kennedy, Robert Kennedy's middle son, my roommate. Uh, Alex Orr, family owned U.S. Steel. Um, Perry Dye, Seagrams. Um, Eddie Merrill, Ricky Lynch. Shaw Barry Brand's son, nephew, um, and that was the private one. And the Catholic one, where I was being sent to be the first prep school I went to, I was going to be a rocket scientist for the Pope. Most of NASA is owned by the Catholic Church. Kids at the bar. What are the kids at the bar saying? Have you visited the kids yet this year? Ever? So anyway, so that was I was with those guys, and so we were, what they were researching. So they had guys come over from India who could stick swords through their cheeks, right? Walk around with them, pull them out, and it would heal within a half hour, and within an hour, he couldn't even see a scar. So that's what they want. They want a soldier that could get hit by a bullet, and we had Filipino psychic surgeons who would reach into your body and pull the bullet out. And so they were doing inappropriate things like shooting people, and then see if they could reach and pull the bullet out and have them heal themselves. And all those guys were like, yes sir, no sir, kind of military folk who weren't wearing the uniforms, but they sure had the haircuts. And they were more or less like robots. They were like something. If you watched the Bourne movies, that's kind of what we were doing in 1968, building those protocols. And I was building apparatus to measure them and to put them in environments that would help them manifest those things. And I was doing it because they were paying me pretty good, $5,000 a box. And pretty much the guy every Friday gave me an envelope with at least 5 Benjamins. And I was living with this really amazing woman who, when we weren't, being intellectually stimulated, we would be in the showers. And she loved to dance. There were lots of dance halls. The school always had a dance. We were always dancing, always listening to music. I'm a good cook. She loved my cooking. What else? So she was really, really, really sweet. And at a certain point, so I was trying to stay away from my draft board, but they were looking for me. I really had no idea why they spent so much effort and money looking for me. But in that one year, that I was just, having a good time, moving around, and I would end up someplace where it got a little close to the powers that be, and the people like that guy who was the boss. He said, I wanted you to see certain things, and I needed you to have a clearance. And so I went in and looked you up. And as soon as I started trying to put the paperwork in to get you a clearance, I got notified saying that so and so is looking for him. Where is he? So I'm telling you, if they're looking for you, you should kind of hit the bricks. And gave me another little envelope. And the girl who had the really nice car, she said, well, I got about a week's worth of, vacation time. So why don't we take, let's go someplace, So we went down to the coast first, to Kitty Hawk, where there was nobody. And then we went down to the Keys. And then we went up the East Coast real slow. Savannah, we stopped at a lot of places where I knew people and I knew interesting things were. And so we just did that. We went all the way up to New York, right? And I took her to one of my abandoned buildings. It's still abandoned. Keys still work to walk in. We took her to restaurants, and they say, where you been? Blah, blah, blah. And she was like really enamored by that. And I took her up to Pumpkin Hollow, which is the off-site place for Theosophical Society and U.S. Psychotronic Society, and showed them those people. And so she was like, wow. And then she had to go. So that was it. She left from Pumpkin Hollow. We spent one night in the Waldorf. So she left, and there was no email in those days, so I would get postcards every now and then. And in the '80s, I was at a conference in Mass, at UMass up there in Amherst, and there she was, and she still was. So I said, "Hey, you want to take a shower?" And she giggled, and she said, "Yeah, later." So we had a nice little. She stuck around for a few more days. So did I, and we had a very nice time. And then we, you know, gave whatchamacallit, postcards again for a while. And then she kind of disappeared. I haven't seen her. So that was, when was that conference? That was in the late '80s, '89, '88. Was it? Early '90s? No, it was the late '80s. I saw her again, though. I was there at MIT in the '90s when they were going on about cold fusion. She was at that, so I saw her there. That was about it. So that's that little story about being in the moment, being there. Meaning, if I had gotten, when I was in my little Carol and she's looking at my books and she's wearing that dress, I could, I didn't. I said, yeah, hey, what's up? Left for really amazing good times. And then being able to go to Mr. Seal and the Seal Corporation. Why all of these things are researched as corporations? Because in America, if the government did that research, you could use the Freedom of Information. But if it's privately owned, and so that's why everything's privately owned. Anything that's in the stream of the the government purvey is useless. The stuff they're going on about, disclosure, forget about it. And when what's his name, Mr. Steven Spielberg did his movie about Close Encounters of the Third Time, when they were on top of that flat mountain and the aliens were arriving, and everyone's getting ready, everyone had overalls with corporate names on the back, right? And you saw no government people. All you saw were corporations, like college, university scholars, old guys like me now, and guys, and you could tell by the suits. The corporate scholar guys, they were either like rough like me, or they were, had a suit, but it's like JP. Then the other guys who were like in that glass cabinet drinking highballs, they had the $3,000 suits on. So that's how you know who's in charge, by the clothes. Either you're dressed like me, or you got a $3,000 suit. Those are the two people who are like have authority, right? Let's see. Yes, yes. So Sunray, he's an engineer and he's making terminals, so he knows what I'm right. Sunray, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so yes, so there's three of you there. It's 12:35. I got things to do, and I'm gonna go hang with John, right? And we can start doing videos. We can do travel logs. We can do lots of stuff. It's all up to John. I get there, and he throws me out the minute I get there. He said, "I'll never do that." I never. We did it 35 times, so I always have to. But I would like to spend a winter with John. I'd like to give him a hand with all the issues so he could finally pull all the strings and terminate them on one nice little service that would bring him a life that he can have joy with. He's got a great place up there. He doesn't have to do any more work in that school. It's perfect. It's amazing, right? He doesn't have to go any further. He's done a lot of travel logs through his school. So, so he's fixed that school up amazingly. And the one thing he hasn't done is the road, because he doesn't want anybody to come up there. So, I mean, about 4 years ago, everyone else on the road had it fixed, and I got the guy with a bulldozer to come up there, and I said, "This is what you need to do, do." And he said, "Okay, okay." So when he went up there with the bulldozer, John came down screaming out, blah, 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 and he goes, "I'm just going to fix you up." Blah, blah, blah. And John said, "Well, you know what you can do? Just push that tree over." So he did, and you know, he charged him exactly what I kind of negotiated with the bulldozer guy to fix the road so it'd be really nice, because I was living there. I wanted to didn't want to ruin my car. When my car goes up there, you ever see cartoons of the cars and the tires are like feet and it's like tiptoeing someplace? That's how I have to drive into John's place. And I haven't been up there for almost 3 years, so I'm sure the road is way worse, because we've had some pretty rainy days. So, anyway, that road guy charged him the same, he was going to charge him $300 to fix the whole friggin' road, because he had this big bulldozer and he had just finished the other mile and a half and made a chunk of change. And so going up there for, he was just going to charge him the hourly rate of what the machine, so since it was already there, he was going to charge any of the transportation, any of this, any of that. And he had extra stuff to throw down. John didn't do it. Ergo, John doesn't want people up there. Ergo, John doesn't want his family up there. His wife would never, please. No. She might like that house because he's fixed it up nice. But I'm ready to have a good time. I'm ready to be that, he's my bud. I want the best for him, he's always in my prayers. And he will text me, "I was really miserable. You sent that miserable energy to me." Like, "John, I haven't talked to you in a year and a half. I haven't, Well, John is the canary in the coal mine. He really represents that neuroses. And he's a very sensitive guy. So he picks all this stuff up and gets, instead of getting centered. Now, he's a Libra, so any can really throw somebody off the cliff. So I'll be coming round the mountain when I come. In about a week, I'll be coming round the mountain when I come. In more than a week, I'll be coming round the mountain. I'll be coming round the mountain. Oh, Saturday or Sunday somewhere. Then maybe Monday, like 6th, 7th, 8th. Johnny boy, if you're still on. Hey, Sandra. I get your emails, and anybody wants to email, I respond. You give up any questions. I'm always there to answer your questions personally. If you're asking me something deep and personal, it might not be good to put it here on the chat, but you want to go to the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. All one word, lowercase. Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. So I've gotten your email, Sandra, and anybody else who wants to, I'm there to help. That's what I'm here for. Only I'm the caretaker of love's co-creation. That's what I do. So anyway, I think I've been on 39 minutes. So when it hits 40, I'm going. So that was a really, and Duke. So I would, over the years, after that. So I had a lot of friends who were at Duke. One of my best friends was at Duke. And other people I went to high school went to Duke. And they were all, fraternity, frat boys. They would party like it was 1999. And one year, I was there. It was spring break. And they, most of these guys were from far away. They didn't want to travel. And they had a nice house. That frat house was nice. And Durham and the surrounding areas, it wasn't quite the Research Triangle yet, but it was kind of. It was a nice neck of the woods. That wasn't the flatlands, farming flatlands of Carolina. So anyway, I stayed one, I was there, and they said, "Oh, spring break's coming," and the finals were there, and they had a big party, like a toga kind of party, but before the Blues Brothers. Anyway, so we had that party, and it was loads of fun. And they again, it was just like I think that guy who made that movie, the Animal House, had gone to a party at this frat because they always had black bands from Durham and Raleigh and High Point and Norfolk and a few other places. Real, R&B, loads of fun. So, we're like hanging back, and a friend of mine gets a hold of me and says, "Hey," and he was a producer, and he produced rock and roll tours, right? And he goes, I'm on the road," and he wasn't the head guy, but he was like the head guy on the road, and he was, he's like me, he was a photographer, so he was in front of where this tour, and it was going to be Grateful Dead, Allman Brothers, and two other bands that were like bluesy kind of bands. And so, anyway, he got a hold of me and said, "Hey, I'm coming right. You're at Duke, right?" I said, "Yep." He goes, "I'm coming through." So we come through, and he's sitting there. We're getting totally baked, and sitting in the bake room of the fraternity. And he's been there. He's going to just sleep tonight. Then he was there another night, another night. Then we had this big Blues Brothers, before that, like a toga party. And he said, "This is the most fun I ever had. These people are crazy. I love these people." And I said, "So, what's your schedule?" And so he pulled out his schedule, and he was coming right through Durham, but he wasn't going to play Durham. And they had like a 4-day kind of rest period. And they had the trucks, they had the stage, they had the lights, they had everything, right? And I took them over to this field, which was like where they had this big bonfire. It's like you could fit the whole school, you could fit both schools, UNC, Chapel Hill, and Duke were kind of, antagonistic, but also brothers, right? So I said, "Why don't we do a festival here?" And it's, gonna come up right before the spring break. These kids are going to be finished with their things. They're going to be, they'll be going nuts. And they have 3 days at weekend, and then they have 2 more days of school, and then they're out of here. So, and they have nothing to do those 2 days. So why don't we do a festival Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday? Tear down, you're going, and then you go to your next place, which is in 4 days, 3 or 4 days later. That should be good. And we will, since this is a stop, we will try and raise some money just for you guys, and because the band is, and he says, "Yeah, let me call up my boss." So I called him up, and the guy said, "Yeah, we'll do that. Can we make a movie?" And I said, "Sure enough." So, and he goes, What is this event going to be?" And I said, "You know what? Joe College Weekend." They show up Wednesday, Wednesday night, afternoon. I'm out there helping them. That's what I used to do. Put up the stage, show them where this is, where that is, where to put the cinder blocks. We'll put that up. We get the stage up by sunrise and get the grid up and pretty much get it pretty much terminated, right? And the band is there. And the band, there were a number of, like fraternities that had already skipped, and and we put a lot of them in. So we took the guys in our fraternity, and we were camping out at their girlfriends and other places, and we put the talent in our. We cleaned it all up, and they said, "Well, it's a nice house." Yeah, okay. And they ate, and the school loved it because those 4 days that were there, it was like they were just walking to campus. They would eat in the cafeteria. The kids would go nuts. "Oh my God, Greg Golden!" Oh. So we're having the best time of our life. And then a friend of a friend comes in with a truckload of party favors, and that's usually the code name for psychotropics and anything else you imbibe to change yourself into a party mood. And we had about 30,000 kids, the students there, and about another 10,000 people from. So we had, close to 50,000 audience. And at a certain time, the first day, I forgot who said it, but they said, "You people are great. It's like you're so crazy. Why don't you rip your clothes off and have sex?" And they did. 50,000 people ripped their clothes off and were, humping everything they could. And and the guy was making a movie of it, the whole thing, right? So Joe College Weekend. Go Google Joe College Weekend. See what you get from that. And so that was, just from a buddy of mine, me, coming and staying with me in this fraternity, getting baked. And, we talked to, and the guys in this fraternity were like the movers and shakers of that school. And we said, why don't we do this? So go Google Joe College Weekend and see what the history is. See if you can see any pictures of me, your Sensei Al Bob there. So I talked over it. So here we are. Okay, so I'm going to get out of here. Yeah, it's time to go. So I hope you enjoyed those stories. Why don't you give me some more thumbs up? Why don't you go get some more, people to be part of the cadre, be part of the, what do they call this? I hate using that term. It's like monetizing. But, I got like the change in my pocket. And my PayPal kind of works. But some people send me some money, and then there's been a dry spot. So want to say something on PayPal? Go to PayPal. They say what email? The Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. So how about some more thumbs up? I'm up subscribers. That's the word I was looking for. I'm up to almost 600 now. Woo-wee! So anyway, I probably again won't be doing this until Monday or Tuesday because it's supposed to rain like all get out for the next few days. So that's why I'm here to do this. So, and my car is not in the best of shape, but it's now at least running. It's getting old. I have to find some antioxidants. So I take antioxidants, and that's why I'm still pretty. I'm still alive. Okay, 4808. We're out of here. Love you guys.